NFL Draft. The Green Bay Packers select Clinton Dix.
And that is what the Packers will try to do again on Thursday as the NFL Draft gets started. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Alex Strouf of AllWisconsinAthletics.com, here for another fantastic edition of the 1265 podcast. I am joined by Arrick Upton, the man, the myth, the legend of the 1265 report. How are we doing, Arrick?
I am doing fantastic. It is draft week. I'm all set to go. I'm sure Packer Nation's all set to go. And, hey, this is where the Packers build their roster.
Yeah, the first round gets started this Thursday, April 30th. The second and third round on Friday the 1st, and the rest of the draft, the last 4 rounds, 4, 5, 6, 7, on Saturday the 2nd. The Packers have 9 picks, which are...
Well, we start off at pick 30, which we know that'll be Thursday night. And then second round, you got pick 62. Third round, you got pick 94. That'll be Friday night. And then we wrap it up, this is where Ted Thompson really finds his guys on, the last day of the draft. Fourth round, you got pick 129. Fifth round, you got pick 166. Sixth round, you got pick 205. And then 2010 and 212. So you got 3 right, pretty much right in a row there. And then the seventh round, your final pick is pick 247.
And there we go. I mean, a solid 9 picks for the Packers. That's always nice to see.
I'm thinking they'll end up with about 11 because that's usually just how it's usually how it shakes out with Ted Thompson. So, Packers like to make a few moves on draft day, which you can't really argue with what he's doing so far. So,
absolutely. I mean, you never know what Ted Thompson is going to do. He gets a lot of criticism, and then he goes out and makes a move that shocks all of us. But it usually tends to work out for Ted. But we look at the 30th pick. We stare that pick in the face, wishing it was the 32nd, but it's not. It's the 30th. We look at that, and there's a lot of things we can do, and there's a lot of things we might not be able to do because you never know what happens on draft night. We had the 21st last year, and somehow, miraculously, Clinton Dix fell to us, as you heard at the beginning of this.
Yep.
So we look at that pick, and I mean, like I said before, there's a lot of things we can do, a lot of things we might not be able to do, but we look at it. We have a couple needs, we have a couple places we might want to improve on, but a couple positions stick out to you and I, which, I mean, you've got the list in front of you.
Yeah, basically I think, the obvious answer here is inside linebacker, but as I've said, I don't think you really, first round, there's maybe 1, maybe 2. Once you get into that second round, that's where all these inside linebackers are. So in the first round, I'm kind of looking cornerback. You lose Tremont Williams, you lose Devon House. You don't have Jarrett Bush back yet. So you're really down to 2 corners on your roster right now. So I think corner is what you go for in round 1. I think that's what we see Thursday night.
Yeah, with Shields leading the charge now, I mean, you got to look at corner on Thursday night. I 100% agree with that. And like you said, inside linebacker, the depth isn't as, deep, obviously, as we would have hoped. But, Sam Barrington's going to come in and fill that role that A.J. Hawk and Brad Jones left.
And then another thing, let me just add this. At inside linebacker right now, I was thinking about this. Your starter right now, opposite of Barrington, would be Carl Bradford. Carl Bradford was the only Packer who did not suit up for 1 game all season. And he would be your starter at inside linebacker. Think about that for a second.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm laughing right now because that's not a good day. And that's why we say. I mean, you look at that in the second round because you've got a couple guys you could look at. Eric Kendricks being one that we'll get into later.
That's probably the only guy that I would be okay with them drafting in round 1. I mean, it might be a little bit of a reach, but again, you don't pick till 62, and I don't know if he'll be there at 62. Which brings up another scenario: do you trade your first round pick and get another second and a fourth? Which I wouldn't be so. I know it's not the popular choice for fans who want to see the Packers make a pick on Thursday night, but if you can get a second, you probably would get a second round pick, probably a fourth round pick. That's usually what it is. Because basically, if you look at your 30th pick, that's pretty much a second round pick when it comes straight down to it. So.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the talent in the draft, that's what you're bringing up. I mean, you're deep in the draft. When you're as deep as pick number 30, that's going to be a little rough. So, like we said, Eric Kendricks is the top inside linebacker in this draft from UCLA. And, I mean, he is he going to be available at 30? We don't know.
Yeah, that's just part of the draft process. And, again, I'm not going to say they don't need inside linebacker, but the 2 guys that I'm most looking at, they're second round guys. So I think, yeah, like I said, corner is kind of the way to go in the first round, and we'll get into that a little bit later here on my top two guys who I want to see here are cornerbacks. So we'll get into that.
Well, I mean, let's do it. We each have a list of 5 guys we really want to see come here. I mean, even first round, second round, depending on where they're going to fall to. So we'll start from 5. We'll go to 1. Eric, I'm going to let you start at number 5.
Well, my 5 choices for first round picks for the Packers. You got Randy Gregory, the defensive end from Nebraska. Kind of a troubled guy, but there are a lot of people thinking, yeah, he could fall down to 30. That'd be a pretty good bargain at pick number 30. I've seen him as high as in the top 15 picks, so that'd be a good bargain. We know Ted Thompson loves his bargains. My 4th guy, like we said, was Eric Kendricks from UCLA, true inside linebacker. Obviously, it's a need for the Packers. My 3rd guy is Max Williams, the tight end from Minnesota. He's a pure tight end. I've watched a couple clips of him, and I think Aaron Rodgers throwing him the ball, that'd make for a pretty good connection right there.
Absolutely.
And then you got my top 2. You could go either way here, but I'm going to call it 1A, would be Marcus Peters, the corner from Washington. Off the field trouble, and he's got size. He's 6 feet, just under 200 pounds. And then my first guy would be Jalen Collins, corner from LSU. He's about 6'1", a little over 200 again, off the field trouble. Reports just coming out yesterday and the day before that he failed a few drug tests, and you can't really do that when you're about to be an NFL draft pick. That's kind of something they don't want to see. So
yeah, that's definitely not a report you want coming out, and that's what left him off my top 5. But your 1A is my number 5, Marcus Peters, the quarterback from Washington. There's a couple red flags, but he's got the full package: athleticism, agility, speed. He's just a stud. There's just a couple red flags when it comes to him. He was dismissed in November from the program due to several fights and arguments with his coaching staff. So I mean, the kid's still a great player nonetheless.
He's got his issues, though, that's for sure. But maybe, I don't know, NFL could turn him around, get him in around a bunch of veterans, which Packers don't have a ton of. Right. But, you know what I'm saying. If you can get him here, hopefully turn him around.
Yeah, I mean, you never know, though. I mean, with Ted Thompson, like we said earlier, you never know. Moving on to my number 4, it was the same as Eric's, Eric Kendricks, the inside linebacker from UCLA, absolute stud. I really like him, and that we both agreed. We wouldn't mind seeing them reach for Kendricks in the first round. Moving on to number 3, Landon Collins, the Alabama safety. He's the best safety in the draft, but I don't think there's any way that we could see a former teammate of Clinton Dix falling to pick number 30. But in any way that he falls to pick 30, I would love to see the Packers snag him. My number 2 is Byron Jones, a cornerback from Connecticut. A guy that might not fall, but like I said, you saw Clinton Dix fall last year. I'd love to see another guy like Byron Jones fall. He had shoulder surgery in October, a 4-year player from Connecticut. He's staying limited activity-wise, but still, like I said, great athleticism, just an absolute stud of a cornerback that I would love to see fall to pick number 30. And my number 1 is the tight end from Minnesota, Max Williams, who Eric said, true tight end, absolute beast. Aaron Rodgers could always use another target. And
you give Aaron Rodgers another weapon and look out. Good luck to everybody else out there, because that's the last thing Aaron Rodgers needs is another weapon.
Exactly. You team up another big tight end with Richard Rodgers, and you've really got a good day going for the Packers, receiving-wise at least. So those are our top 5s. I mean, really, a lot of these could be possible in the first round. Not a whole lot of them are going to be possible in the second round, though.
Yeah, and that's the thing when you put together a list like that. I know everybody that I got, they'll probably all be gone in the first round.
Right.
So draft time. It's a fun time. So we'll see. Ted Thompson usually kind of surprises me. I don't know about everyone else, but he surprises me when it comes to the draft. Defense, I would like to see the Packers go defense. You really don't need a whole lot on offense.
Right. I mean, yeah, absolutely. But you've got a couple notes here regarding the draft and the Packers. So, I mean, if you just want to shout those out.
Well, they're pretty obvious, and everyone should know this, that the Packers, they build through the draft.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying no other team does, but the Packers kind of rely on the draft more than any other team out there. Ted Thompson loves his draft picks, and like I said earlier, yeah, they start with 9 picks. Don't be surprised if they end up with 12 picks, 11, 12 picks. We see it happen every year. Ted Thompson will just the trades, and people underestimate it, where he'll give a sixth for 2/7. People don't think a whole lot of it, but when you look around, a year later, look at who some of those guys are. He knows what he's doing, that's for sure. And then other thing, just basically the needs in the first round, just to kind of summarize it. Inside linebacker, but again, I only see one first rounder out of that group. Corner or tight end, that's the way to go. So we'll see. I mean, it's draft week, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's exciting. I mean, this first round pick coming up in just 3 days. I mean, this Thursday, it being Monday. I mean, yeah, you've got a backup quarterback listed, though, on your list, I see. Do you think the Packers can look for a backup quarterback somewhere deep in the draft when you bring up maybe a possible 2 7th-round picks?
See, I would go before that.
Really?
I think a backup quarterback, a guy like Bryce Petty, he had a pre-draft visit here. That's just perfect. I'm not so sold on Scott Tolzien. I don't, a lot of people seem to think he's the backup quarterback. I don't think he is. So you got Bryce Petty. Another guy, Garrett Grayson from Colorado State. There's a couple people who think he's the best quarterback in the draft. And if you could get him 3rd, 4th round to sit behind Aaron Rodgers, yeah, I mean, hopefully, I hope as much as anybody else hopes, Aaron has another 8 years.
Right.
But that's the thing when you're going with a quarterback like that, just to develop them. And look what New England did. New England drafted Jimmy Garoppolo in the 2nd round. What better way to sit behind Tom Brady? You turn that around in a year or so. Look what they did with Matt Castle. Same type of thing. You turn these guys around, you get something for them, and that's, backup quarterback and running back. You got Lacey, obviously. You have James Starks, but you don't really have a 3rd running back. So, in this day and age in the NFL, you kind of need 3.
Right.
And we had that problem last year with DeJuan Harris not able to get it done, and always good to have depth at that running back position. So quarterback and running back are kind of my dark horses in this draft that the Packers should kind of target anywhere as early as round 3. That's why I look at it.
Right, and I mean, sitting in the shadows of Lambeau Field right now, it's not a bad day to be to say one of our biggest needs, looking in the 3rd or the 4th round, is a backup quarterback. 10 years after we draft a man named Aaron Rodgers.
Yep. Absolutely.
So I mean, that's what we look for. I mean, really hardcore in this draft: Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So now we're going to shift from really looking at the Packers, and we're going to move up 29 spots to pick numero uno with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the wonderful 2-14 record they had last year, earning them the number 1 pick in this year's NFL draft. Now, Eric and I were talking off the recording a little bit. If we were Tampa Bay, what we would do. Eric's got kind of an interesting take on if he was Tampa Bay.
Yeah, if I'm Tampa Bay, I don't even use that number 1 pick. What I would do, there's been talk about Cleveland wanting to move up. I would almost give them that first pick, because I believe it's 12 and 19. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But they have I would trade that first pick for the 12th pick, and probably you probably could get their first round pick next year, if not their earliest 2nd round pick this year. That's what I would do. Because the way I look at it, if you're Tampa Bay, you need a quarterback. That's your biggest need. And again, what I would do is I would get one of those quarterbacks in the 3rd, 4th round, like a Bryce Petty, Garrett Grayson. Right. There's so many of them out there. That's just what I would do. But if I had to pick one, that's kind of the question here. If I had to pick one, I would go with Jameis Winston, just because he played in a pro-style offense in college. Right. Bigger guy. But his off-the-field troubles, that's what would kind of concern me. But if I had to go with one of the 2, I would go with Jameis Winston. Yeah,
looking at the Marcus Mariota versus Jameis Winston topic a little bit for Tampa Bay, I'd go the same route. I'd go Jameis Winston. You bring up the pro style that he ran at Florida State under Jimbo Fisher. I was watching tape earlier today on Mariota, and what he ran was he was a really mobile quarterback. He was able to make throws out of the pocket. But is that style really going to translate to the NFL? Another guy that really did that, Johnny Manziel. And right now he's in a boatload of trouble. What's new? Sitting behind Brian Hoyer over there in Cleveland.
Hoyer's in Houston now.
Is he?
Yeah. So he's.
Did I miss that? No.
He's sitting behind. Who knows? They have Connor Shaw.
That's right, Connor Shaw. I
think that's Manziel's job in Cleveland. We're getting off topic here, but Yeah, no, the perfect example. Look what that does. Colin Kaepernick, that was his claim to fame, was
Yeah.
that style of play, and that's kind of disappeared.
It worked for a little bit, but
that's just. I think the NFL is shifting. It kind of was going in that direction to that type of quarterback, and now I think it's kind of going back to, your style of how it used to be. Basically,
Right.
It's kind of evolving a little bit back and forth. So.
Absolutely. But yeah, bringing up that style, that's why I really look at Jameis Winston. He can do that too. He can make throws out of the pocket really well. He can use his feet, but really, he's a solid pocket passer, which is really important. Mariota is too, but he's more of the mobile guy. He likes to be on his feet. He likes to run around a little bit. So that's why we like Winston at pick number 1. Now, moving back to pick number 2 with the Tennessee Titans, both of us are saying Mariota is going to be there available at pick number 2. But the Titans don't know if they really want Mariota. They want another guy that's been in the league for a while by the name of Phillip Rivers, the starting quarterback for the San Diego Chargers. There's been drama surrounding that for the past 10, 11 days. So what's really your take on this whole Rivers situation?
Well, if I'm Tennessee, I don't give up a whole lot to get Phillip Rivers. I don't see why you want to give up your future for a quarterback who has 3 more years left in him. That's the way I look at it. Another thing that I would not disregard here is Jay Cutler to Tennessee.
Really?
I would not. I know it sounds crazy, but I would not disregard that because he played college football at Vanderbilt, which is in Tennessee.
Right.
Not that that has a ton to do with it, but we've heard Chicago. They say that they're behind Cutler 100%. I don't think they are. You get a new coach, basically new front office, new coaching staff. They like to start with their own guys. That's usually how it works. And Jameis Winston did visit the Bears. So
Really?
Put it all together, and you kind of figure a little bit out here. So that's my what to watch for there in that situation.
Well, the things you learn from Packers Insider on my left, Arrick Upton, Jay Cutler to Tennessee is a possibility, maybe.
I would think so. Yeah. I mean, if I'm Chicago, if you can get, I don't know, you would probably almost have to get that number 2 pick. But if you're Chicago, you probably have to give up your number 1 pick, which is pick number 8, I believe. So you'd have to give them your pick.
7.
So your 7 pick and Jay Cutler probably for the 2 pick, and you always throw a little something else in there.
Right.
So that is one thing that if it happened, I really would not be shocked to see Jay Cutler at Tennessee Titan Thursday night.
Really?
Which would as for Packer fans, would kind of suck. Let's be honest, because Jay Cutler is guaranteed 2 picks every time we play him. He seems to struggle against the Packers. So would you rather face Jay Cutler or Jameis Winston? That's the real question. Jameis Winston, rookie quarterback, hasn't proven anything in the NFL, but yeah, I would rather face Jay Cutler. I'm just gonna say that.
I mean, yeah, I don't want to use the word love, but the hatred that is kind of a weird love in a sense. The brother that you hate almost is Jay Cutler. Like you said, that's guaranteed 4 interceptions a year, to us at least. We like beating him a lot, I think.
And it's evident that the Bears are kind of starting over. They basically gave away Brandon Marshall, their best receiver. So, again, new coaching staff, new front office. That's in any sport. That's when they kind of change things, start with all their new guys. So.
Absolutely. Now, I'm moving down 18 picks now. I'm looking at pick number 20, which is owned by the Philadelphia Eagles. I wanted to talk about what they've been doing recently. Chip Kelly, being the man himself, a former coach at the University of Oregon. It's been rumored that they have been in talks with the Tennessee Titans, who own pick number 2. As we mentioned before, Marcus Mariota, the quarterback at the University of Oregon, could drop to pick most likely will drop to pick number 2. They just signed a man by the name of Tim Tebow earlier this week. So I want to talk about that before we get into the draft again. Just shifting off topic for just a couple seconds. Tim Tebow signing with the Philadelphia Eagles. Absolutely nuts or a good move?
Good move.
Really?
I think it's a great move. Again, part of the reason why Chip Kelly did it is, here's the thing. In a couple weeks here, you have a vote going on it to change the extra point. If you change the extra point, which I believe it would back it up to the 15-yard line, a lot of teams are going to go for 2. Look at Philadelphia right now. You have Sanchez, Bradford. Guys, I'm not going to want pounding the ball in from the 2-yard line. There's Tim Tebow. That's why he's a Philadelphia Eagle. Chip Kelly he goes for two. He went for two a handful of times last year.
It's true.
He steals free points. That's what I heard. So if you can have Tim Tebow at the 2-yard line, just running the ball, and you're going to take that over Sanchez or Bradford or whoever your quarterback is.
Right, and I mean, even with the loss of LaShawn McCoy to Buffalo, that you bring up a good point because Tim Tebow is really, I mean, he's a bigger guy. When he was with New England a few years back, there was really a rumor of him moving to tight end to replace the one and only Aaron Hernandez, very smart man. Beautiful, not beautiful move, but an interesting move by the Philadelphia Eagles.
Here's the thing with the Tebow contract, it's a 1-year deal. It's worth the league minimum, no signing bonus, no guaranteed money. So what do you have to lose? And I said this before, and I had people basically say I was crazy. I said the Packers should have looked at Tim Tebow.
Yeah.
What does Mike McCarthy do best? Kind of makes quarterbacks, in a way. You know, he's a good quarterback coach. You get Tim Tebow for no signing bonus, no guarantee. I almost would take Tim Tebow over Scott Tolzien. Tim Tebow won a playoff game. Has Scott Tolzien do that? No.
Scott Tolzien has not done that.
Tim Tebow has won multiple games. Has Scott Tolzien won a game? No. So there you go. I think it's a great move for Philadelphia. I was surprised as everyone else was, but yeah, I think it's a fantastic move on Chip Kelly's part.
Now shifting back to the draft side of things with Philadelphia, do you think that Chip Kelly moves up to pick number 2, however he can do that? Sam Bradford may be in the mix to snag his former prodigy, I guess we could say, in Marcus Mariota.
No, I don't see it happening. The NFL trades are so hard. There's so much you got to work out, and unless this is the week when teams will start working on stuff, but I don't see it happening. I think they're kind of okay with what they have right now. Yeah, they might not have the franchise quarterback or the greatest quarterback, and as the old saying goes, when you have 2 quarterbacks, or in their case 3, you don't have one. But no, I don't see him moving up at all. I think they'll stay where they're at as far as quarterback. Sam Bradford, he's done it before, but again, question mark of what he can do, or
injury-wise as well, yeah.
Injury-wise, and Sanchez, he won him a few games last year. There is better in the league, but I think they're all right with what they got right now.
Yeah, and you know what, I do agree in that sense, but I think going back to the Bears, San Diego's without a first-round pick. Chicago's standing at pick number 7, so you're only moving up 5 or 6 spots depending on who they can trade with. So I think the point that you just brought up has kind of exploded in my mind and blown my mind a little bit, because that seems like it's so much more possible now that I look at it. Bold move from the Chicago Bears. If you know what, Thursday night's going to be a fun night nonetheless. But I'm excited. I'm definitely excited for Thursday night. I'm excited to see what kind of trades are made on Thursday and Friday and Saturday, even though those aren't, like we brought up earlier, you never know what could happen in the 7th round.
Yeah.
Tom Brady was made in the 7th round.
Right. So being that it is draft week, I've always been big on the draft, and a lot of people look forward to Thursday and Friday nights, the 1st through 3rd rounds. Me, I like the later rounds. That's almost where your team is built, is the later rounds. Your special team guys, your backups. And as we've seen in Green Bay over the last few years, you need some key backups. Injuries happen. So I have 5 guys here that I would really like to see the Packers draft, and they're all 3rd to 7th round, late 7th round picks, 3rd to 7th round picks here. My number 1 is a guy who they actually did have a pre-draft visit with, and you only get 21 of those. So you must like the guy if you're going to bring him in for one of your 21 pre-draft visits. And that's quarterback Bryce Petty from Baylor. I've liked him for 2 years now as a prospect, so he would be a great backup quarterback, I think. He might be, to me, he's the 2nd best quarterback in the draft. I would have to go probably with Jameis Winston as my number 1, and then Bryce Petty.
Really?
Bryce Petty's my 2nd best quarterback in the draft. Mariota's not too far behind, but then my 2nd guy, who I've actually seen in a mock draft to the Packers in the 3rd round, is running back Duke Johnson from Miami. Speed guy. You got Lacey, the power guy. Starks, the power guy. So, right, you add a speed guy, and that's Duke Johnson, speed running back. Didn't really play to his potential at Miami. He could have been a lot better than he was. And then my third guy is a true inside linebacker. Basically, if you ever want to watch film of a guy, you will see what a true Packer is. He's hardworking, doesn't take plays off, and that's Ben Heaney, inside linebacker from Kansas. The guy is he reminds me of A.J. Hawk, actually. He's so consistent. He even looks like A.J. Hawk a little bit. He's consistent. Again, doesn't take plays off. He's always around the ball. So I would like to see Ben Heaney from Kansas, linebacker. Probably 5th, 6th round guy. My number 4 is, and I'm a USC Trojans fan, so I got to go with it. He's probably a 5th, 6th round pick. We need a corner. We need corner depth, and that's Josh Shaw, corner from USC. I'd like to see him here. And then my 5th guy, I know we have Mason Crosby, a kicker, but this guy, his last name is just perfect, and that's Josh Lambo from Texas A&M. You can look what happens every time they give Crosby some competition in training camp. He seems to stand it up. So if you can get Josh Lambo, probably a 7th round pick, possibly undrafted free agent, he's probably your best kicker in the draft. So those are my 5 late round guys that I would like to see in the green and gold.
Absolutely. And I actually want to talk about the Mason Crosby thing real quick. We had Giovanni, I can't think of his last name.
Giorgio Tavecchio.
Giorgio, not Giovanni. I knew it was something Italian. But he was here a few years back, and Mason Crosby just went out and lit it up that year.
Exactly.
He missed like 3 kicks on the year, I think.
Yep.
Something amazing like that.
Yeah, anytime, you light a fire under a guy.
Yeah.
Give him some competition. Mastay will have competition this year. The former Alabama punter, Cody Mandel, is a Packer.
Right.
So he'll be giving Mastay, who had a down year last year. We all know that. So he'll have some competition. Why not give Crosby some competition?
And you know what? Going into your list, talking about competition, Bryce Petty to come in and give Scott Tolzien a little competition. And I mean, Petty's been a really solid quarterback at Baylor the last few years. He's been in Heisman conversation, never a Heisman finalist, I don't believe, but he was always in the conversation until late of last season. Really, he succeeded RG3 really well at Baylor.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at Duke Johnson as well, your number 2 guy on the list. You brought up DeJuan Harris. He's now on the Packers JV team, also known as the Minnesota Vikings. You said he's more of a speed guy.
Yeah,
so do you see him maybe returning kicks as DeJuan Harris a little bit?
Yeah, he's a kick returner, but I think and Wisconsin fans will love me for this. That's part of the reason we have Jared Aberdarius. Yep. But Duke Johnson, he did a lot. Well, don't quote me on this, but he did do. I shouldn't say a lot. He did some of that at Miami. He's a speed running back. So like I said, you have 2 power backs right now. So usually best to have one of each kind back there, and right now we don't have one. So he's a 3rd, 4th round guy. So can kind of justify drafting a running back in those later rounds like that.
Right, and with Josh Shaw on your list, that you said he's a 6th round pick as a corner. We're definitely going to get a corner in the 1st or 2nd round. So, I mean, do you think we really stock up on corners? We brought it up earlier in the show. I mean, we only have 2 true corners right now. So, I mean, do we really stock up and maybe 2 or 3 in the draft?
I would get a couple of them. 1st round, you got Jalen Collins and Marcus Peters, as we talked about. I would go with 1 in the 1st round, probably 1 in the 3rd round. There's the guy out of, his name escapes me right now, but from Oregon State. He's a corner out of Oregon State. That's a guy that I really like. He's the 3rd, 4th round guy. And then Josh Shaw from USC. A big thing about that is at that corner position is look at the receivers they're going against. I've always been a big one on corners out of big colleges because they're obviously facing the competition across from them,
and that really gets ready for the NFL, right?
Because look what when you draft corners out of smaller schools, they're basically playing against guys who aren't going to be playing in the NFL who are at a smaller college. Almost I don't want to say for a reason they're there, but
right.
They're not the true competition. Then when you move up to the NFL, it's different animal there.
Right, we look at Clinton Dix, who really came in and performed pretty well for most of his rookie year here in Green Bay, and he was at Alabama, which is obviously just the powerhouse of Division I football in the NCAA. So I mean, it was nice to see him come in and do some good work. And there was one more on your list. We already talked about Lambo a little bit. Josh Lambo, how perfect of a name is that to come to the Packers?
Yeah. Yeah, and again, competition. Again, kicker and backup quarterback are the two that I think they should really put some competition at.
And I mean, if we brought in a guy like Petty, do you think we keep 3 on the roster, which we don't always do? We did it a little bit last season. We did it the season before, obviously, because Rodgers was hurt.
I think you almost have to keep 3 this year, just because the lack of experience at that position. And if Rodgers goes down, I hate even saying it, but. And the other thing with that is Matt Flynn, obviously not re-signed, but things that I've heard is that it could be the same situation. If Tolzien shows he can't get it done, well, you got Matt Flynn to call. So Don't discount Flynn being back sometime soon if Tolzien shows ineffectiveness, or if they do draft somebody and they're just not ready.
So once again, the draft begins this Thursday, which is the 30th of April. Rounds 2 and 3 on Friday, May 1st. It's already May. How great is that? And Saturday, May 2nd, rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7. The Packers currently have 9 picks. Eric's going to run over those real quick as I try to figure out, what'd you say, Arizona State he was from, that corner?
Oregon State.
9 picks. Can you run over?
Yeah, the 9 picks again. We got the first round, you got pick number 30. Second round, you got pick number 62. And then in the third round, you got pick number 94. So that'll be, again, Thursday. And then Friday night is 62 and 94, and then you get into day 3, which is Saturday afternoon. You got pick 129 in the 4th round, pick 166 in the 5th round, and then you move to the 6th round where you got pick 205, 210, and 212. And in the 7th round, you got pick 247. And again, that can all change because we know how Ted Thompson likes to make some moves on draft day.
And absolutely. And the name we were looking for, maybe the most average name ever, is Steven Nelson.
That's what it was.
Steven Nelson of Oregon State. A true senior, 5'10", about 190.
That's who it was, yeah. I like everything I've seen from him so far, so I wouldn't mind. He's, what, a 4th, 5th round guy?
CBS Sports has him listed at, 3rd, 4th.
Yeah. That wouldn't be an awful pick for a later round corner. Again, you got to stack up at that position. 2
or 3 is what I'm going to stick with that. I mean, P.J. Williams I'm looking at too from Florida State. He's a junior. That could be another 2nd, 3rd round pick. I mean, there's a good amount of corners in this year's draft, and I really like seeing
absolutely.
that. Definitely 4 or 5 first round picks, cornerback wise this year. All right. Well, I think that'll do it. I mean, that's all the both of us have. So. That is the 1265 podcast, the draft, once again, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And we're going to see what the Packers will do. We'll talk post-draft a little bit to see what we do. We'll sign the undrafted rookies at some point coming up. And that'll
probably Saturday night, Sunday afternoon they'll start. And again, a note on that, as an undrafted rookie, in case you do not know or aren't sure, undrafted rookies, they pick where they want to go. So I would, if you're a wide receiver, undrafted wide receiver, why would you want to come to Green Bay other than catching passes from Aaron Rodgers? But I think the Packers have their 5 to 6 that they're confident in. Right. So don't look for a lot of undrafted receivers. But again, you never know what Ted Thompson seems to.
Exactly. I mean, we really look at more the defensive side of the ball again. Cornerbacks, maybe some linebackers will choose to come here.
If I'm an undrafted corner, undrafted inside linebacker, I want to come to Green Bay.
Absolutely.
That's the first thing. A running back. I'm really looking to come to Green Bay if I'm one of those positions.
And that, like you said, Saturday night, Sunday morning.
Sunday morning they'll start. Well, actually, right after the draft, they'll start. Yeah, Saturday night, they'll start rolling in. So
that'll be interesting. So I mean, next time we have another edition of the show out, we're gonna have another, maybe 20, 25 new players on the squad.
I think the roster stands at 63 right now. No, it's got. I thought I heard 63. You'll usually, once you begin training camp, you'll have about 90. So you're going to add about 27 guys.
So that's a good amount. That, like we said before, that'll be the undrafted. That'll be the drafted, obviously. So we'll see when the next edition of the 1265 podcast will come out, which will be either next week or the following week. But for this edition, pre-draft edition, that'll do it. My name is Alex Strouf. You can follow me on Twitter at Let's Go Alex, and Arrick Upton on my left at ARRICK Arrick Upton, and the 1265 Report on Facebook. But that'll do it for us. Thank you for listening, and we will talk soon.